Breaking news. Walking Dead Prigozhin and Putin. In a bizarre turn of events over the weekend, Russian mercenary leader Prigozhin led his Wagner Group mercenaries from Ukraine, where they had been fighting alongside the Russian military, back into Russia, in what appeared to be a coup against Putin's regime. They took the strategic city of Rostov-on-Don and marched north to Moscow. The Russian military offered little resistance to Prigozhin and his troops, and he appeared ready to march on the capital and seize control. When asked what could possibly stop him, he vowed, "We will go to the end." However, his confidence quickly faded. On Saturday, as Wagner's forces were closing in on Moscow, Prigozhin abruptly changed his position. Alexander Lukashenko, the autocratic leader of Belarus and a close ally of Putin's, mediated a deal with the Russian president and announced that his troops would withdraw. In exchange for Putin dropping charges of armed rebellion against Prigozhin and granting immunity to his men, Prigozhin agreed to leave Russia and go into exile in Belarus. It's likely that the Russian army will absorb some Wagner forces. It is unclear whether the agreement reached on Saturday marks the end of the crisis or merely a temporary shift in strategy in the ongoing struggle between Prigozhin and Putin. One thing is certain, though: Prigozhin lost it on Saturday. He could have taken advantage of Putin's surprise and weakness to seize power. Wagner's heavily armed forces could potentially outgun the remaining Russian security services guarding Moscow because many Russian military resources were located in Ukraine rather than Russia. Prigozhin's stardom, however, didn't last forever. Putin is now very likely to order the assassination of his rival. For much less, the Russian leader has thrown opponents out of windows. It's ludicrous to assume that Putin's lapdog Lukashenko will stand up for Prigozhin in Belarus. Minsk, the capital of Belarus, might as well be a suburb of Moscow due to Moscow's long reach. Putin has had many of his opponents murdered in the West. Prigozhin probably wouldn't have attempted a coup unless he was seriously delusional if he thought Putin would keep their agreement. However, Putin is also a walking corpse because his precarious grip on power has been exposed. The uprising led by Prigozhin has shown that Putin's regime is superficial and does not control all forms of violence in Russia. Putin delivered a fiery national address on Saturday, in which he called Prigozhin's rebellion a stab in the back of our country and our people. However, only a few hours later, he reached an agreement with Prigozhin. Putin's actions demonstrated to the Russian people and the rest of the world that he will cave in the face of a formidable opponent. Ukrainian and NATO officials have apparently learned their lesson. Once Prigozhin moves into exile in Belarus, Putin's only move to stay in power may be to have him murdered. Meanwhile, Prigozhin might be doomed to wait for his assassin while contemplating the future.